everybody. Welcome to WOCA Style. It's me, Sonia. I am at the helm today. We are going to have a very important discussion today. I was reading a recent poll in Harvard Health that found that less than half of women aged 57 to 73 are sexually active.
What?
And can you believe that of those half, they're only active less than twice per month. So you're applauding to that, really?
I am. I am. I'm sorry.
So clearly, this is an issue for women of a certain age, right? And satisfying sex for women of all ages depend on a few things. This is what I've read in the Harvard study. And it says that you need to have desire, you need to have arousal, you need to be free of pain, because nobody likes that. And you need to have...
Some people like pain.
You know what?
That's another.
You know what? That's a whole other topic.
It's the way they perceive the pain.
Okay. Perception is everything.
Yes.
Very important. You need to be able to have an orgasm. And we're going to really get into that. So good sex, I say good sex, is a very important component, not only to our relationships, but also to our health. Yes, good sex impacts your health. So we need to be having more of it. But helping us navigate this conversation today about sex, that's what we're talking about, is Dr. B. Welcome, Dr. B. Dr. B is a licensed professional counselor. She specializes in family and marriage counseling. But guess what? We're not here to talk about that. Well, we are, kind of. I think we have to. She also specializes in sex and relationships. Dr. B, welcome to the discussion. And please tell us about yourself, but please clear up some misconceptions about sex therapy. Because when I think about sex therapists, I think about a couple actually having sex
in my office.
Listen, I know I'm not the only one having sex, and then the therapist is very instructional about what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong.
That sounds like the production of a movie.
I think my husband would divorce me.
And you know what? I also think of men coming to sex therapists because they think they're going to get some practical hands-on. But please clear up for us, what does a sex therapist do and what don't you do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, as a sex therapist, you're usually, you're a mental health professional. So you've got some sort of license, a LPC, licensed professional counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist. You can have some specialization licenses. But really what we're doing is we're helping individuals and couples addressing sexual concerns and improving their sexual functioning and their satisfaction. So they're not having sex in our sessions.
You hear that, people?
But we are talking about it. We're doing a lot of different techniques, conversational topics, mindfulness, behavioral therapy, a lot of education that goes into it. And it's really just talk therapy on learning how to reconnect and have shared experiences through healthy communication. So we work with people who are experiencing like a wide range of difficulties, low libido, difficulty achieving and maintaining an erection, premature ejaculation, difficulty reaching an orgasm, having pain during sex, precipitated by PTSD or any other kind of just natural body reaction that is not necessarily medically related. anybody who's just having any sort of issue during sex. We also, I deal with a lot of individuals and couples with sexual orientation or gender identity. We also do a lot of psychoeducation to children, teenagers. A lot of it too involves reparenting adults about sex.
That's very interesting. That's pretty broad. Wow. I mean, that was a lot. That was a lot. Yeah.
Although we don't have sex in our sessions, there are times when we're talking about different positions, or we're talking about things to introduce into the bedroom. We're talking about even sometimes visualizing or doing some visualization about what would happen during sexual intercourse.
So, for many women, I think, I've heard this among my friends. I hear this so often, is that problem when you're having problems in the bedroom. They're usually a result of the problems you're having outside of the bedroom. So how often is sex therapy, is it also part of sex therapy, I should say, is it the marital counseling or couples counseling? Is that a component of sex therapists to talk? How much of that is part of sex therapy?
If the couple's in there, or just one part of the couple is in there, and marriage comes into it. I mean, sex is not just in the bedroom, and sex is not just the intercourse part. Sex is it's relational in and of itself. It's the relationship that you have with yourself and the relationship you have with others, right? The relationships that we have with our children infiltrate the relationship that we have with our spouse during sex.
Right.
So all of this comes into play. And I think too, I think a lot of people who have a degree, a PhD or a master's or a license in counseling, who do marriage counseling, they know that they would be doing a disservice to not introduce the sexual component into marriage counseling, even if it's just, we're fighting about which religion we need to raise our kids in, right? You still have to look at the sexual component and relationship between the spouses. So yes, when spouses come to me for sex therapy, it opens up the door to me to go into their marriage as a whole.
Wow, that's a lot. I didn't realize that it would be that deep, but I guess everybody's perception of sex and the hindrance of it, whether it's working or not, I'm sure each person's issue is totally different. So I guess you have to, dig deep into each person until you get what you need.
Right.
So
I think that it sounds to me like, issues outside of the bedroom. It's like, for me, like I shouldn't even say for me because my husband's probably listening. But
for your friend.
For your friend. Yeah, for your friend.
My friend says that, things like vacuuming or taking the trash out, that's like a very, that could turn some people on because it shows. I mean, because especially if they don't do it hardly. But it's like that's the beginning of foreplay for a lot of people. Like they're doing something for you that you would normally have to do to take it off of your plate. Is that? I mean,
Is that foreplay? Yes. Yes, that is foreplay. The reason why is because desire, which is needed for a satisfactory sexual relationship. Desire is the feeling of wanting something, right? So if your spouse or the person that you're going to be having sexual intercourse with is doing things that you find desirable, that desire is going to relate to wanting them, the person who's doing these things that you find desirable. The other thing is that if vacuuming is part of your stress, is part of the reason why you're not having, or you're having low libido lately, is because you have so much stress, because you got the vacuuming to do, you got the kids ballet lessons to do, you have the teacher, meeting to do, you have the grandchildren coming over, whatever it is, you have all this stress. When your partner's taking some of that stress off of you, it leaves more room for libido to have, a little bit of space within you.
Yeah, I think I saw something on social media where this woman was trying to teach her husband how to do foreplay, and it was like those. So it could be anything really. And I think that it's really hard to give that message to men. Like everything doesn't have to be sexual to be sexual. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Only because we know exactly what you're talking about.
How do we relay that message to men? How do we tell them, you don't have to always, like stick your tongue down my throat, there's other things you can do to get in the mood. How do we relay that message to them?
Yes. I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people, because that kind of relates to the question of when do we go seek a sex therapist, right? Yeah. When do we go? And for most, I say, well, I want you to try some things first before you even need to see me. And that's just having healthy communication with your spouse about sex. And so many women will go, oh, I communicate what I want. And so many men will say, oh, I communicate all the time. But how are you communicating it too? Are you communicating it in a critical way? Are you telling them all the things you don't want? Are you giving them broad interpretations about what you do want? And that all goes back to how comfortable are you talking about sex? Because a lot of us might think we're really comfortable talking about sex, but usually that's because you're comfortable talking about sex with your girlfriends because they have a similarity. But with your husband or your spouse or your partner, you don't always have that similarity. And you don't want to come across as condescending either. Right. So that holds us back from being really, truly vulnerable and having these conversations, right? So it's crazy because I relate it a lot to, talking about what you want for dinner with your spouse, right? My husband will say, what do you want for dinner tonight? He's like, I want to do something easy. I've had a long day. I just want to order out. I don't want to cook, right? And he'll ask me, do you want to cook? Well, I do want to cook, but we don't have anything in the refrigerator. And then he's like, okay, well, let's just order out. So then we agree on ordering out. Then he says, what do you want? Do you want some sushi? And I'm like, I just had sushi like 2 days ago. I'm not in the sushi mood. We go back and forth, right? About what we want, why we want it, what's going to fill us up. Do we want to be in a healthy mood? We talk about food more than we talk about sex.
Yep.
And what's more important in our relationship, food or sex?
Food.
They can get food from anywhere else.
I'm talking about me.
And you can incorporate food into the bedroom if you would like.
Definitely. But that's very interesting because the way you phrased it is, if you don't feel comfortable communicating about sex and talking about what you want, and you said use the word condescending, you never want to come off as if you're bashing that person or making them feel, like they need to be defensive, and that's sometimes I'm sure how it comes off too.
Yes. Yeah,
I think that's why.
So men's egos are just so fragile. Like you can't even. You have to be really careful with what you say and how you say it, because it's like they're crushed. Their whole world is crushed. Yeah. But when we're talking together as women, we can go there. So I think that we just have to, and I think a lot of it has to do with our upbringing. I don't know about y'all, but for me, it was kind of taboo. You don't talk about that kind of stuff. You just kind of lay there and let him do what he needs to do. And, you don't really express yourself that way because you don't want to be perceived as like a
Slutty.
slut or
How do you
loose.
know that? Well, where did you learn that? Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's generational. I don't know if I'm speaking for people or not, but I feel like it
Somebody's
might be
gonna relate.
generational that we want to be perceived as a good girl. We want to be marriage material. We're upstanding ladies in the church. We could not talk about fellatio. We could not do, all these things. And so I think that is where the communication issues begin because we have been programmed to be super conservative and super, just, I don't know, maybe that's just has been the experience that I've had and other people that I've spoken to. So how do you get past that, especially at this age? Like I've been married 30 years and I'm still like a little embarrassed sometimes about certain things. And I don't know why. He's
Yeah.
seen me at my worst and I'm still like embarrassed sometimes.
Exactly. Yes, I'm glad you said that because your partner is who you should be most comfortable to be vulnerable around. But what happens is a lot of those morals, things that we've learned, education, I call it a sex map, which is something that I do with a lot of my clients, especially individuals who come in with sexual concerns. We'll do a sex map. And what that includes is all of the interpretations about sex that they've gotten from different things, parents, the church, books, the first time they experience sex, what do they get from their peers? What type of person do they want to be? And what does sex have to do with that, right? And we look at this whole thing and we really try to decide, does that match what we think, though, would be a sexually satisfying life? And if it doesn't, then we need to get rid of, or we need to kind of discern whether we still are into those morals and beliefs that we had growing up, or if they need to change a little bit, right? So I've explained this to many people in this way by saying, as women especially, we wear different hats everywhere we go. We are businesswoman, we are a housewife, we are the cleaning lady, we are the mother, we are the grandmother, we are the aunt, we are, the wife. We are all these things.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we forget about is that we are a sexual being too. And we don't wear that hat a lot. And the hat that you wear to church is not the same hat you wear to happy hour with your girlfriends.
No,
right?
it's not.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Yes.
Right. So if you can separate those two things, you can separate the freak in the sheets, the lady on the streets, right? You can separate.
That's a song. I was gonna say that was somebody wrote a song
Right.
about it, didn't they?
Yes, because it's true, and that that really allows to. Not only is that just the way to be more sexual freeing in yourself, but it also introduces a lot of vulnerability into the bedroom. Because imagine if the way you are in the bedroom, or let's switch this for a second. The way your husband is in the bedroom, okay? If only you are the one that got to experience that, how much closer would you feel to your husband that nobody gets to see him wear this hat besides me? Nobody. He's going to feel the same way about you. It brings an essence of vulnerability, an essence of connection, an essence of like a deeper love that we have that nobody else gets to have with this lady.
Makes sense. Makes it special, I assume. So everybody feels like they're getting something out of it.
Yes.
I have a story. So our group of girlfriends, we did like a pole dancing class. And so after my pole dancing class, I was like, okay, I'm going to show my husband what I learned. And I'm going to get on the pole. Well, I didn't have a pole, but I had a 4-post bed. And so I tried to do my little, and he died laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so hurt. My feelings were so hurt.
Yeah.
But you know what he said? He was like, that's a huge, that was a huge turn on. But his initial reaction was to laugh because he had never seen me do that before. And I was very comfortable doing it in front of my friends. But doing it in front of him, it took a lot. It took a lot for me to actually get the courage to do it. And then when he laughed at me, I was very ashamed. But then when he told me, no, I like it, you know, and I think that was just his initial reaction.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to step outside of your comfort zone to do something different.
Yeah.
Even though it feels weird or whatever, I think they like it.
Yes. And that's what happens in marriages, is that somebody will try something or ask something or introduce something that they want in your sexual relationship, and the other person is caught off guard and they respond uncomfortably.
Yes.
And that sends the signal of this is not okay. And so then you retract. And sometimes, though, you have a special marriage because he was able to come back and say, whoa, I didn't want to react like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then he told you his true feelings about it. But some marriages, they don't come back they don't come back together and try to both be comfortable about it. And then they stop trying. And then nobody's initiating anything anymore. Nobody's introducing anything anymore. And the desire, I mean, can you eat sushi every day? No. Can you eat chicken every day? No, you're going to get sick of it unless you change it up a little bit. Right?
Right.
So if your sex stays the same, the exact same, you are not going to have a satisfying sexual relationship for 40 plus years. You're just not.
You know, you really hit the nail on the head with that. I think that, you know, I have to say, and I don't know because I am a certain age. I don't know if younger women are really having an issue expressing exactly what they want in the bedroom. Just, you know, just following social media, I see that younger women are very liberated sexually. They're trying a lot of things. They're feeling free to do a lot of things. But when you've been in a 30-year relationship or or any a marriage of any length, significant time, introducing something new, as you stated, could be really, really tricky. You know, it is uncomfortable because it's like, oh, when did you pick up pole dancing? You know, well, where did this come from? And when it's not received the way you expected it to be received, you're right. It could cause a total shutdown.
Yeah.
I know me personally, if I do something and it's not received well, I'm telling you, the doghouse is cold. It's cold.
Oh no, not you.
but you know, I feel like we women of a certain age are at this place in our life where we've been doing the status quo for so long that introducing anything different does become tricky. What would you say is what should Kaz have done? Should she have had a conversation with her husband before, saying, I have something planned for you tonight? We're going to do something different so that it's not a surprise, that he knows that it's not a joke. Like, what are some of the things that we can do to let our significant others know that we need to stop eating chicken every night, as you stated?
Yes.
How does that conversation start?
Because what?
How does that conversation help us with that conversation?
Yes. Well, I like what you said. That's exactly what I would suggest, that people have the conversation before. Now, when you were pole dancing in front of your husband, though, you felt comfortable enough. I think you knew your husband enough to know that it wasn't going to go totally wrong, right? Now, he did laugh, but he came back at you. That's a comfortable marriage, right? But even if that happens, because she wanted to be spontaneous, right? And that was probably part of the desire she had in the moment, was spontaneity. But you have to, what I want women to do, and men, is to feel really comfortable in asking for what you want. So that when you're given the no, or you're given the laugh, or you're given the, oh, that you can kind of calm your reaction to that and then open up a conversation that explains why I introduced this, why this is important to me. Because I do know myself and I do want this in our relationship. Go ahead.
I think more women in long-term relationships with the same sex partner have been faking the funk for so long that it's almost no going back from. So I think the even a more important question is, if you have been tolerating something in the bedroom, given all the sound effects, oh yeah, when you really want to say,
You are crazy.
Oh hell no. How do you say, look, I really I don't like that, or how do you, because you've been liking it for 30 years,
right? Right.
What do you mean you don't like it? How do you, and then also women of a certain age, things that we may have even liked 20 years ago, we are not comfortable with that today. So it could just be that I don't want to do that anymore. But
right.
Women are so intimidated, and we're so quick to put our feelings over there because we're everybody else's pleasure and everybody else's happiness comes before ours. We're pleasure givers, and if we happen to get pleasure, oh well, okay. And I'm just saying that's women of a certain age. How can we start to undo that? How can we take charge of our sexual needs? Because we do need sex. We're going to get to how helpful this is to your health, ladies. Yeah. But how do we tell them? How do we tell our partners we don't want to do that anymore?
Well, first of all, let me ask you, why were you faking it in the first place?
Well, let me just tell you. Okay, I'm going to just.
We all.
Now, I heard my husband. Am I talking about you, husband?
Yes. We all have the same answer. Just go ahead and say it for us.
I don't think that there is not. Now, y'all are lying, and I'm gonna just tell you because I've looked at the statistics and ladies, y'all, and men, if you're watching and thinking, oh well, I'm in the 20%, I've lost the stat. Well, it says only 20% of women are reaching orgasm. Well, I'm glad my wife is one of the 20%. No, she's not. No, she's probably not.
Yes, and tell all the men out there, why do we fake it?
Yes.
For them?
Yes.
It's for them.
And again, we don't want to hurt their ego. Now, the statistic didn't say that women can't orgasm.
Right.
I just think it's a whole communication thing. We don't tell them what we need them to do in order for us to get there. So we just we're just there going.
Well, and a lot of times it's because we're laying there thinking about, oh, I got to fix lunch. Oh my gosh, I got to wash the dishes. Oh my gosh, I got to put some clothes in the washing machine. Oh, what am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to cook? There's 19 other things going on in your mind that you haven't turned off.
Which is why vacuuming for Kaz is so sexual, because then you just take one of those things off the list, right?
Yes. He's helping you be more mindful when he takes one of those things off the list.
That's right.
But we also know too that when we make those sounds and we wiggle our body like, oh, we're going out of control, that they are going to finish faster, and that's going to turn them on. And then we could go to bed so we could wake up and do all the checks,
and do our list,
right? Yes.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them.
Really? You just exposed us, Dr. B.
You told the secret.
Here's the thing. You want to tell them that. Here's why. Because women, there's been no woman that I've met to this date, and I've been doing sex therapy for 10 years, that has not faked an orgasm for that reason. And so it's not going to stop now. And I've faked a many with my husband, but it doesn't mean I can't reach orgasm when I want to, right? He knows that I'm faking them too, because sometimes to me too, it's just going to feel good just to say those moans and everything. I don't know if it's because I know that it's going to make him go faster. That makes me feel good so I can go to sleep. I don't know what it is, right? But I'm also enjoying it a little bit because I'm enjoying him enjoying
it.
me.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing that this is another thing on my checklist that I got to check off, and it's have sex with husband tonight, right?
Yep.
But what I want him to know is that I do that for him because I love him and because his sexual desire might be more than mine at times.
Yes.
And that's okay. That is totally okay. Because men, here's the kicker. Men, and this is the majority, so this is the bell curve. It doesn't mean all men, but it is the majority of men feel loved when they are having sex. Women need to feel loved in order to have sex. Okay. So women and love is however you describe it, right? So even a one night stand, you can feel loved. You can feel like the person's attracted to you and loves you or in lust or whatever it might be. But we need that feeling in order to have sex. We feel loved by them, right? But it doesn't make our desire go up higher. It makes their desire go up higher because they really want to have that feeling. And in order to have that feeling, they need to be engaged in sex. Right?
Is that why they're always so eager and on the ready, like, because that gives them that euphoric feeling of satisfying us? I mean, I just don't, it's so weird to me. Well, I know there are some women who have a really high libido, but it just seems like I don't know any man. Well, I don't know any man who don't want to every day.
Yeah. Now there are some out there. There's a lot of men who struggle with low libido too. You know, I don't want to discredit them, but a lot of men, yes, they have that higher sexual desire because it satisfies them in a lot of areas, right? And women cognitively are multifunctional. So at the same time we're having sex, we're thinking about all that stuff, Sharita, that you listed off. Yep. Men are easier at separating their thoughts and their cognition. So when they're having sex, they're feeling the love, right? Mm-hmm. We not always are. And it takes a lot of mindfulness to get to that place too, where we can just concentrate on this thing, being in the moment, being present. That's where an orgasm comes from. So we're not always going to have that orgasm, and that's fine. But as long as your husband knows that I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for you because I know you want it. I'm mindful of that. And I want to be the person giving it to you. I don't want Becky from work giving it to you, right? So I'm doing it.
Or your rabbit.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I don't want women to get into the habit of that being a large percentage of the times you have sex. Because what you're doing now is you're teaching your body that that's the way to have sex. And you're forgetting all the things that go into play to being mindful and enjoying the orgasm. And then you're forgetting to have the conversations to him about what is actually turning you on, what is making you feel good in the moment. So if your husband knows that you're faking it some of the times, it's easier to have these questions or these conversations about, hey, can you try this? Can you try this? Because he's going to be like, well, you enjoy it all the other times I do it. Why do you want to try it now? But if he knows that you're not always orgasm, you're having an easier conversation.
And Sharita, you just hit on something really interesting in that you don't know any men that don't want to do it all day, every day. And this is so interesting because, and I don't know why this came up and why this was such a free flowing topic. I think it was at like a 15-year reunion. It might've been a 10, I would have been really young then. Maybe it was a 15 or 20-year reunion. All of the guys were talking about their little purple pill. And I thought this was, well, my God. Wow. Let me just say, so just for the sake of this conversation, because I am a woman of a certain age and I know what my body has gone through with hormones and how that has impacted my libido. Um, uh, I'm like, let's see how men are affected as well. And let me tell you, statistically, men of a certain age. Now, I actually really do believe that there is a thing called male menopause.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it actually really is a thing. I don't think they discuss it as much because that might hurt the ego, and I think the medical community is concerned about the male ego. So
Yeah.
we don't want to label them with the male menopause, but men and if somebody can, I don't remember the age group. It's like I can't even see in my own glasses. Um, but they are having men of a certain age, a very large percentage of them, it is natural for them to experience some form of erectile dysfunction, some form, and the doctor can speak to what those forms are. And then when they get as they get older, the percentage goes higher and higher. The problem, I shouldn't say the problem, the benefit that they get is that medicine sees this as a serious issue. I don't think that women, I don't think women were really meant to enjoy sex. I don't think that, back, you have women that, in certain countries that are getting cash, whatever they call it, genital mutilation, where they remove it because they don't want you to enjoy it. The whole purpose is for procreation. And once you are, postmenopausal and you are past procreation, nobody cares that they did that little pink pill for women. Thank you, advocate, but it didn't work, and they haven't come up with an alternative. But they've got all of the colors of the rainbow for men to be getting
Yeah.
busy into their 70s and 80s in the nursing home. So I think, number one, like, who advocates for women? Because this is an issue. We do want to enjoy sex, although I don't think the medical research community thinks that we should be enjoying sex after a certain age. You can't have babies. What do you need to be using it for?
Mhm.
But um,
Mm.
I also think that there is this stigma around talking about the inability of men to naturally perform. Do you find, like, in your practice, that you're having a lot of men come in with their women, or are they seeing you one on one to talk about their ED?
I'm glad you asked this because, I do see a little, and you're the first person to make me think of this when you ask that question. Are they coming in with their women or alone? And more often than not, now that I think about it, they do come to me first alone, right?
Mhm.
So they have obviously had some type of discussion because their partner is seeing this, right? That they're having a problem maintaining or even getting an erection, or maybe they have pre ejaculation issues where their cum is coming out before too fast, or they might be hypersensitive, and so they're ejaculating very earlier than they normally do, right?
Mhm.
um, Not being able to control their orgasm as much as they used to, probably when they were younger, healthier, more fit, less stress, whatever it is. That's kind of coming in. But a lot of them do come see me alone at first because they want to figure out really what it is, right? And
Yeah.
they are scared. Men are scared, even though they know this is false internally, but this is put on by their spouse. What if I'm just not attracted to my spouse? That's why I'm not having an orgasm. But they know internally that's not the case.
They'd
But
rather believe that, though.
because their partner will put that on them. Because we think too, we put a lot of pressure on men. We think men are just these sexual beings. And if you're having erection issues, it's me. You're not attracted to me. It's
Yeah.
something I'm
Mhm.
not doing, right?
Got it.
Which is
Got
not it at all. Erectile dysfunction can be medically induced. It can be genetic. It can more often than not, it has anxiety it's coming secondary to some type of anxiety or performance anxiety related issues. A lot of it too is just stress, diet, exercise, health. All of those things contribute to it as well. So when I tell them this, they're like, oh, okay. So this is something that I can fight and battle. And I'm like, yes. Now with the little blue pill that you were talking about, that can work. But with therapy, like any other medication, if you're using the medication and therapy, you're helping the prognosis of this advance better and grow in time where you could possibly not even need the medication. Sometimes you will still need the medication, but you also have to get through that internal battle of not having the ability to maintain an erection, because that causes performance anxiety. Because then every time you're about to have sex, men get into their mind. They're like, oh, is it gonna come up? Come on, Richard, you can do it. And then all they're thinking about is having the erection instead of looking at, the nipples right in front of them that are shaking. They're just thinking about this, and is he going to perform tonight?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times the pill is not going to help with getting men out of their own mind too. They get stuck. And what's crazy is that when I get the women in the therapy session to listen to this, they're so supportive and understanding because they know, they're like, I get into my mind a lot too. Right.
Right.
Sometimes I think about, do I look good from this angle, or, can he see all these stretch marks? Or I get that way as well. I'm not always focused on you and how desired I am to you. I'm looking at myself, and that performance anxiety comes into play, which is why a lot of women too, that can be a reason why you're not always getting aroused or, being naturally lubricated down there. Of course, that has other medical issues and growth issues and hormone issues as well, but that can contribute to it as well. So
and I was going
a lot of this is anxiety.
Yeah, and so you talked about the little blue pill for the men, but there really is nothing out there for women and their libidos and to help move them along. Do you have any suggestions on like herbals or any things that you've seen that could help a woman?
There are things. I always get a little nervous about saying this because, okay, so first off, I'm not a psychiatrist, so medical doctor, I'm not. So I leave the prescribing to the psychiatrist, right? But what I do know, like I said before, you need the therapy and that. There's other things that have come up, like the O shot has come out recently. We have, rejuvenation type surgeries to make you tighter, all these things. But really what these things are doing are they are enhancing your ability to feel the vibration that's going on in the clitoris. Okay. So the clitoris is basically what the penis is formed into when we are just little, groups of cells. When our genital area starts growing, the clitoris either stays a clitoris, it's under the little hood of your vagina, right? Some people's are more protruding, bigger. Some people's are smaller. But that for men, when they're growing in the womb, that grows into a penis, right? So that's where a lot of the nerve endings are from. The clitoris, though, if you take the labia majora, which are the lips of your vagina, if you take those lips, if we were to kind of like surgically remove those real quick, you would see that the clitoris goes into the lips, kind of like a horseshoe almost, or a wishbone, right? A wishbone, exactly like a wishbone. Why do I never use this? It's exactly like a wishbone. And so that whole vibration right there is just as sensitive as the man's penis. So a lot of these like O shots and vaginal rejuvenation surgeries that they've got to make you tighter, what they're trying to do is they're trying to just make that clitoris more sensitive, which is where we can get aroused. So that's why I always, I suggest to women, get to know your clitoris, get to know it, touch it, rub around places, see where you can feel it in there, find all the new toys that suck on it, spray it, do all this stuff to it, and really get to know what that feels like, and maybe what other parts of your body need to be fondled while that is being stimulated.
Got it. Okay.
I think that it's interesting that you brought up toys, and that is really something that I think is going to help women um, find out exactly what is pleasing to them, and what is not, and then you can communicate. I think that it's a great way for self-discovery.
Yeah.
As
I have
that's
a book.
ah,
So
okay,
this is not written by me. I wish it was. It's written by Dr. Nagoski. She is an amazing PhD, sex therapy. This book, if you don't want to go see a sex therapist yet, this is basically your therapy in a book for any women of any age. And
come as you are.
mostly come
And
as you are.
Who's the author?
It is what?
Who is, repeat the author?
Dr. Emily Nagoski.
Okay.
She,
in the comments.
yes.
Yeah,
this is all about improving self-image, improving your self-image of your vulva, your vagina, really knowing yourself. But she does it in such an amazing way that it relates to almost every woman. I just always say almost in case there's one woman who's like, no, I hate that. But I've never heard of a woman who's really had a bad review of this book, because she puts it so well on how to have a good relationship with yourself and with your vulva. Most definitely.
I think that, okay, Sharita, see you later. She'll be back. We're talking about ED and knowing yourself, and it's so important to understand too that men of a certain age, women of a certain, becoming a certain age, health challenges arise, and a lot of the medications you hit on for maybe high blood pressure. A lot of us are taking high blood pressure medication, men and women. Diabetes, kidney issues, all of the medications that come with
cancer, chemotherapy, those are killers.
Yes, all of these things can affect your libido. All the more reason I think that people should absolutely feel comfortable, and don't judge yourself for like needing to seek intervention from a medical professional, as well as to talk through some of these things with yourself, Dr. B. I'm just curious, I'm curious to maybe go back a bit. Consent. Okay, this is a kind of two-part question. I kind of know some. This is kind of it's not personal, but I know somebody.
It's your friend.
It's my actually, it's a family member who's gone on to glory. But anyway, so I had a relative who we used to joke that she was the 40-year-old virgin. She lived many years after that, but she was never interested in sex. She was never, so I guess my question is, you have to be, there are a lot of women now, this relative was just asexual, just a total disinterest, but I think she was asexual. But there are so many women of a certain age that have lost, just have absolutely zero interest. The libido is there's a complete shutdown, and they're not even really interested in relighting the fire, the flame down there. But What could sex therapy do to make you to stimulate the mind again, to get you interested if you have just lost it? Like I could go throughout the rest of my years and never disrobe and engage with another partner for the rest of my life and I will be fine. What
That's a great question. Please
what can you
answer it.
do? What can you do? Help me help myself. But I'm not talking about me. You
Yes.
understand. Okay.
Well, first of all, why would this person even want to change this?
Well, okay. So, okay, hypothetically, this person, not the relative who was never interested
Right.
in anything in the first place. So, this person is in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there are a lot of women who have you've reached your postmenopausal and listen, I don't care. I don't care about sex.
Please
And
answer.
but you have a partner
Please
who
answer.
cares.
Please
And
answer.
so
So
how do you is it fixable?
yes, because first, the reason why I asked you that question is because I'm first going to change the dialogue that those women use. I don't care about sex. Well, then why are you here? Well, because I'm in this relationship and he wants it, and I don't want him cheating on me, and it's ruining our marriage, right? Well, then you do care, right? You do care. And so, even just that self dialogue that you're giving to yourself or your friends or your family members, that it is like, it's kind of becoming a belief that you have. And when we have a belief in anything, we start to hold strong to it. So, I love Coca Cola, right? I love Coca Cola. But I could do without it, and it would get easier to do without it the longer I don't have it.
Yeah.
Right? Because then I don't know what I'm missing.
Right.
Yeah.
So once we start giving ourselves this dialogue and then we start participating in that kind of behavior of not wanting or being detached when we are participating in it, right? Once we start to, do that kind of self-fulfilled prophecy, then it becomes this internal belief. And in therapy, I start to break that down because it's not a real belief of yours. It's interfering in the other things that you want in life. And so anytime a belief no longer holds its grounds, we have to get rid of that belief, right? When it's now causing a problem, we have to get rid of it. So therapy helps you kind of process that. And then once we've gotten rid of that, we're kind of leaving a door open for so much exposure. So like in sex therapy, I try to make it as fun as possible without actually having sex in the room. I try to make it as fun as possible. Maybe we're doing some hand massages. Maybe we're doing some, miracle fantasy dialogue. I'm doing a lot of homework, but the homework that is kind of self-prescribed by the couples. So this is not me saying, oh, you have to have sex on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday next week. Like, it's not that kind of homework. It is us finding and talking about what can start stimulating this again. What are the things that I can try that remind me that, oh, this is good? Because I do care about having it because my husband cares, right? I mean, the only reason we have fresh flowers in my house is because I care, not because my husband cares, but he's the one that buys them, right?
Well,
So he could say I could live the rest of my life without having any fresh flowers in my house, and he could. But when he buys them and sees how happy I am, and just that little bit makes our marriage better, he starts to like buying the flowers,
got
right?
it.
Just like you will start to like having sex again, especially if you're now getting turned on by it. But at first, we have to get rid of that belief because that belief is like a therapist nemesis.
Yeah.
It works against me.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really
I
does.
have a question regarding single women of a certain age who, they just don't, they don't need any man. They're not sexual beings anymore. They don't view themselves as sexual beings. And then, and I feel like in our community, African American women, there's a lot of single women who view themselves as being single for the rest of their lives. And how do they get past that, that hump of I'm forever single. I'm not a sexual being. I don't relate to this. I think it's just really difficult as a single woman of a certain age. You've got that on top of everything else to contend with. And then, how do they get past just that piece of it? Being a single woman with really no, it doesn't look like they will ever find that special person. However, they're not a sexual being, when in reality, we all are sexual beings. How do they get past that?
Yes. Well, we all are sexual beings, but if it's not causing a problem for them, not being sexual, then it's not a problem for me as a therapist either, right? If it's not causing a problem, it's not a problem. Leave it the same. But I have a hard time believing that even the women you're talking about, that this is not a problem for them. I think it is, because think about there's a lot of aspects of sexuality that makes us as women feel better about ourselves, right? I mean, for instance, I feel powerful when I feel sexy or I'm in a sexual mood. That's what turns me on, power. A lot of times when I want to give speeches or I want to, be on a podcast or something like that, I go for the more sexier look because that makes me feel powerful, right? Mm-hmm. That does something as well as to your endorphins. It does something to your muscle tension. It's good for setting goals for health, right? I mean, sexual desire in and of itself is a motivation for health. And then not only is it a motivation for health, but it is also a precursor to health too, because sex is so healthy. Mm. So when you feel desired, you feel lighter. When you feel liked, you feel happier, you feel more content, you feel less alone. All of these things intertwine with sex as well, because you're not going to get everything that you need from just your friends, right? Your friends are not going to desire you completely. I mean, they could. Yes, they could. Yeah.
But not in that way.
Yeah. But be desired by somebody that you'd want to be desired by, right?
Right.
So there is that component of just being desired that does something for people in their own self-image, self-worth, self-esteem. And that's all about self-care and self-help too. So I really try to introduce them that this is just because you're not getting it or you don't think that you are worth it anymore because you are of a certain age or whatever it might be, doesn't mean that it's not important and doesn't mean that you should write it off either.
And maybe that's what you've told yourself.
Yeah.
That it's not important. And full disclaimer, because I know I have some friends out there who are living their best lives of a certain age. There are a lot of women of a certain age that are very much living their best sexual life. And that's for a few reasons. But primarily it's because when you reach a certain age, your nest is most likely empty. Mm-hmm. And so you can enjoy all the surfaces in your home that you have paid for without any threat of little Johnny coming in, busting you wide open. The other thing is I just lost my bear. I just lost my friend.
Welcome to
women of a certain age, right?
But let's just go with, there is the freedom to have your whole house to your whole self, and you can do what you want to do. And there are a lot of women that find the freedom in that, and there are a lot of women, like you say, statistically, unfortunately, black women, black women will not get married. uh, uh, a lot of us will not get married. That's a whole other conversation. um Now, your morals and beliefs aside, some people may be, in this put themselves in a box where I can only engage in this, in the context of marriage. So therefore, I'm writing off sex because I don't see marriage in my future. So I think that is a possible reason. But
Yeah.
there are many women that are single and are looking for the guys that do not have ED issues. Hence, he is a lot younger,
That
and
is
they are enjoying themselves. But which but so let's back to the majority of, and I don't know if it's the majority of women of a certain age, but let's just talk about people that have been in relationships for a significant amount of time. What is the weight? Now, my husband, every 6 months, I'm a different weight. He has and my husband, God bless him, the one chore he's excellent at is the laundry. um you know uh, I have to say, I told him, you don't need to do my laundry anymore, thank you. And I made up a reason why he didn't have to do it. I'm like, I don't like the way you handle my delicate. What I really didn't want him to see was those extra large panties. But I mean, it's just like, I will fold my own double digit clothes. When I get back down to single digits, you can take up the laundry again.
yeah.
But again, that works both ways, right? I don't know. My husband may not, thank God for him. He has never said that he was not attracted to me. But there is, my husband has said he doesn't like big women. And I've been a big woman. But what if you are not attracted to this person?
Ooh,
Now,
that
listen,
is a good one.
I don't
What?
listen. I'm not trying to leave. Dude, I'm not talking about me, people. So don't y'all be talking about, "Ooh, did you hear what she said about her husband yesterday?" No, people. I'm talking about y'all. Okay. I'm
Okay.
okay. Um, um, this dude, I'm not trying to leave him. He's a good dude. He's solid in every area, but Lord have
He a
mercy.
little chunky.
He's gotten a little chunky around the midsection. Like, he's
Mm.
huffing and puffing. I don't like that anymore. And it's just like, I'm just not. I'm looking at you, and you
I'm
just,
not feeling it.
I'm not feeling
Yeah.
it. How do you? And listen, we're a certain age, which means we're going to keep getting even. We're going to keep aging. We're not going to
Yeah.
age back. It's not Benjamin Buttons here. But how do you keep up with that? When is there any hope?
Yes. So you're not attracted to them physically,
Yeah.
Yes,
but you are attracted to them in other ways,
but
right?
yes.
But physically, and physical is not the only component. However, it is a very strong component. And a lot of people can cringe when I'm about to say what I'm going to say, but
Look.
your your partner does not need to love you in every size you're in. Okay? And I'm not saying love you for you, but they
Yes,
don't need to love every size you're in.
yes.
Now, the most satisfactory relationships have a feeling of safety where they can talk about this and it not feel so critical where it tears down my entire being by you saying that you're concerned about my health in a way, or that you would like to help me get to a place that might be more healthier, right? If you're huffing and puffing too, that goes beyond just you having a belly. That is not healthy to be huffing and puffing during sex. I don't want you to have a heart attack when we're in the middle of sex, right?
It's a great way to go, but I don't want you to go that way.
Yeah. Not good.
Right. Yes. But, you know, and these are going to be very, very vulnerable conversations to have. And a lot of them, most often are better to have in a therapy room where there is understanding and you just don't get so defensive and you're not attacked.
Right.
But also these kind of conversations only exist in a partnership that feels safe and secure. Okay, so we're not talking about abusing relationships or controlling relationships where, you know, the man is saying you have to be a six-pack and fit all the time. We're not talking about those relationships.
Right.
Those relationships are not safe and secure.
Right.
But in the safe and secure relationship realm, we should be able to talk about those things and what we are physically attracted to and what has changed. Now, there's other things that are out of our controls, right? Wrinkles, you know, sagging breast. I mean, those things can be fixed only surgically, not by taking better care of our temple, right?
Right.
But what you don't understand too is that if you have these open conversations about how much we appreciate that we have aged together and how much we appreciate, you know, that these wrinkles are actually signs of everything that we've been through. That I remember having sex with you before that wrinkle was there. I remember having sex with you before that stretch mark was there. I remember having sex with you before when your dick used to stand like this and not like this anymore, you know? And if you have those conversations in an intimate way, it brings upon this, like, I don't know, almost this erotic history of we're growing together, also sexually. And I have a lot of conversations with that. My oldest couple I've ever had, 87-year-old couple.
What?
Yeah, she was 87. He was 89. I think he was like 2 years older than her.
And who wanted it the most?
And they just
I
heard. Yeah. They heard somewhere, I think it was in one of their reconnection church things that they went to, about the importance of sex, because a lot of churches are starting to introduce this, you know, into their reconnection couples, you know, services or whatever. And they said they were very sexually active all through their marriage until about, I want to remember, it had to be like a decade, like 10 years, no sex at all. And they were just wondering if I could somehow help them reintroduce this for the last few years of their life. And if it would even be worth it.
That is awesome.
Okay, yeah, I just want to know, were you comfortable? I mean, that's like your great grand.
I know.
Were you comfortable talking to them about?
So I'm totally comfortable with it because part of my story of why I became a sex therapist is because of my parents. So my parents were always very sexually active. My dad was always grabbing my mom's butt, like in front of us. They were making out with tongue, like all the time, you know. My mom's vibrators would be washing in the sink. I'd walk past, like, I mean, they weren't the crazy out there, but they were like, this happens between two people who love and respect each other. And I always wondered why my friends' parents were not like this. But why I felt more comfortable because I never had to worry whether my parents were divorcing. I never had to marry if they were cheating on each other. I always had a stable home because my parents loved each other intimately, right?
Right.
So I've always been comfortable talking about sex at any age. You know, ask my boys, they're 8 and 12. They're always like, oh, mom's talking about sex again. You know, like they know when they ask any question, it's going to lead to a lecture. But
they'll appreciate that later on in their lives.
I hope so. But I mean, anybody who comes in to my sessions, you know, whether they think what they're about to tell me is just totally weird, I'm I love sex, right? Now, and I'm not always like, I don't always have a high libido, but I love that people are interested in sex because I know that it stabilizes marriages, it stabilizes families, it's good for your health, and it creates long-lasting relationships, which is what we need more, especially in our country. The divorce rate is through the roof. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So to have more love is never a bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so weird because in this stage of life, I mean, I never, you don't know what it is, what sex is going to be like until you're experiencing it. And I feel like this conversation kind of sets people up to recognize that, this is likely to happen as you age.
Yeah.
But I do relationship, and it's healthy, and it can be, but we've got to learn how to communicate our needs.
Yes. Well, another thing too
And
is
for
that
like my husband and I have a very, very we use humor in a lot of our communication, right? And so I think a lot of that is because the nervous about it, or it's uncomfortable, so we'll shoot it out as humor. But I think that willing to have that conversation, even though it may be uncomfortable, I think that's a key to having a very healthy sex life at this particular age, because everything has changed. Especially, like, I know from my own personal experience, everything has changed. The libido, the desire, the
The weight.
the positions are different. Like, the weight, you certain positions you very good at. So all of that comes into
you're
play.
not flexible anymore.
No. And then there's a thing called Charlie horses, which I don't know where they came from.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yes. All of those things.
On?
Right.
Yes. It's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah. Well, and it is important. I do want to note too that with that couple that I saw that was 87, he was not able to get an erection without no medication, nothing could help. So we were not just talking about penetration of a penis into a vagina. We had to explore other ways that they could have sexual intercourse.
Well, what are the other ways then, Dr. B?
So we did a lot of like, yeah, we'll have to have a part 2 because Senate focus is a whole different way of sexual connection that doesn't involve putting anything into anywhere, nothing. And it's a totally different way of connecting and arousing your partner by just touch on the surfaces of your body. So
I think that we probably should have a part 2 to just that.
Dr. B's gonna have to charge us pretty soon.
Dr. B, yes, I think we can do a whole conversation, and I think all the ladies will love it if you're saying that we don't have to. Is that what you said? No, we don't have to do that.
I don't want to eliminate it totally. I don't want to eliminate it totally, but we can explore other ways that make that better. But there's so many ways of having sex that people don't explore because you're not talking about it,
Right. That's true. That's probably a lot of work too, now that I think about it.
Which one? The Senate sex?
Yeah.
The
only work it involves is just being able to make yourself be present in the moment. That's the only work. And that does seem like a lot of work, but that's something that's done through mindfulness, something that we really work on in the therapy room. But your mind is a powerful thing. You can make it focus on just the present if that's your goal. It can do that. And that's where arousal comes from, is being focused on, because laundry is not arousing to me unless my husband's doing it, like what Cass said, right? Laundry, sweeping, or the kids are definitely not arousing to me. Anytime I hear their voices, I'm like, get off me, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
But with mindfulness, there's been times where I could hear the kids yelling for us, and I'm like, ignore them. They're not dead. Just keep going. But this is all about, and that's a lot of sex therapy, is teaching mindfulness.
That's interesting. I learned a couple of things today. So very interesting.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. You've hit on some great things. This is just the beginning of the conversation. We'd actually love for you to come back and to continue this discussion at another time. I just want to say thank you so much. I also, sorry, we'll just go. I really want to reiterate, because you did talk about the people of a certain age. How old were they again? In their 80s?
87 and 89.
Listen, the takeaway for me is just to reiterate too how important this topic is to your health, and how important it is if you're having issues sexually, to really, because you hit on something, Dr. B. I think that a lot of these discussions need to be had with a third party. I think you need to introduce a therapist to have those conversations where there's nobody on the defensive. You need somebody to mediate this conversation. But I just want to share with you guys the benefits of sex for men and women, and of a certain age. Okay, it lowers your blood pressure, it relieves stress, it relieves pain. It's a mood enhancer. It improves your cardiovascular health. It improves your immunity. It improves your sleep. It boosts your brain power and function. It reduces the risk of prostate cancer for men. And men, this one really made my husband happy. It was in the back of my head when I read that men who have sex twice a week live 50% longer, have a 50% greater reduced risk, of death than men that only have sex once a month. So that's a further incentive to actually engage in it more. I qualify that by saying it's good sex. If it doesn't, right, doctor? If you don't orgasm, you don't get any of these things. So that's why it's important to see a therapist. Also, specifically for women, regular sex increases the pelvic floor strength. This becomes so crucial for women of a certain age. I know so many women of my age that if they're going from A to B, they will be wearing a pad, and it's not.
Oh no!
So if you want to increase your pelvic floor and reduce incontinence, and laughing and peeing on yourself and all that kind of nonsense, just have more sex. Actually having sex increases your lubrication, and y'all know that it can get dry down there after menopause. I'm talking, which causes pain for not just yourself, but your partner's getting burned down there on his penis. Also, it more sex reduces vaginal. What is wrong with you, Cass? Okay. Anyway, it reduces wrinkles, ladies. Did y'all know that?
No.
It reduces wrinkles. It causes your skin to
How is that even possible?
Girl,
that's what smiling.
Listen, that's what the Harvard people said. It says all that blood circulating plumps your skin. And so I'm saying, ladies, we need to go talk to Dr. B about how to have more good sex. So so we can.
So our faces won't. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to get so much Botox and fillers because we've got all that good sex we're having.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's time to go get busy, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Time to
Exactly.
go get busy. Listen, I did not. I failed to introduce my. I was so excited about this conversation today that I forgot to introduce um, the creator of WOCA style and the usual moderator. She probably won't let me moderate no more, but I don't care. Cass, Cass, thank you for giving me the wheel this week. Thank you, love to our lovely co-host Sharita and Dr. B. Thank you so much. Cass, take it away. You can have it back.
Fabulous job, Sonia. Fabulous
Well,
job.
thank you very much. This is very, very enlightening. You did a great job. Dr. B, I love the vibe that you brought to today's episode.
Oh, thank you.
It's a conversation that a lot of people
Yes.
just feel uncomfortable with, but you made it very comfortable and relatable. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So, again, thank you so much. And if you ever want a sex therapist, Bianca is located in South Lake, Texas. You can find her there, and I think she's awesome. She can help
Yes.
you get over the hump and also reduce those wrinkles. All
Hmm.
right. Thank you very much, and hope you have a nice evening. Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Good
Thanks, Dr.
night.
B. Thanks, Dr. B.
Cheers.